Good morning, everyone. Are you able to see my screen? Just put it in the Zoom group chat. Yes. If you are able to see my screen, just let me know. Great. Thanks, Chaitanya. Thanks, Arpita. Thanks, Darsh. Thanks, Guru. Okay, great. Good morning. Good morning. All right. So we'll be starting a webinar. Okay, 14 participants. Great. So before I start the webinar, I just want to have a certain disclaimer, out there. So I'm good to go. This presentation is only for educational purpose. Please note that no investment advice or suggestion or recommendation is given from this presentation. In case if you have any questions, please put it. You can put it in the Zoom group chat. You don't have to put it in the. I don't think I've activated the Q&A box, and I will try to answer all of them. Again, as I mentioned earlier, all the participants are muted. Okay. So the flow of the webinar is going to be, I'll give a brief introduction about myself. We'll kickstart our main agenda of today, that's wealth management. I'll take some opinions from you. What for you is wealth management? I'll talk about the flow of the process, what steps are included in the wealth management. We're going to take a brief case study. This case study is of a fictional person, and I've tried to make it as realistic as possible so you can try to implement the same steps that we are going to discuss in the webinar in your own personal financial statements. In the end, we'll conclude the webinar and summarize all the topics. I'll also share some resources that I feel are useful. All of them are free. Feel free to use them. And in case if I still have any Q&A at the end, I will try to address all of them. So about myself, I've done my BE from Pune University. I've worked in our family business. I've experience in residential and commercial real estate. I've done my MBA from Johns Hopkins. I also worked here in a private REIT. For non-CFA folks, private REIT is an institutional investment company that invests majorly in the real estate assets. I have also passed my CFA level 1 exam, and I've taught wealth management at Johns Hopkins online. So this is what actually sparked, the drive in me to educate a lot of folks who are missing the gap between the practical and the theoretical, the implementation. So before we, begin our session today, I just want to know, what is wealth management for you? Okay, I'm back online. Can everyone hear me? Great, great. Okay. So a lot of folks have just joined. Guys, you haven't missed a lot. We have just started our webinar. I gave a brief introduction about myself, and we are on the first slide. All the participants are muted, your audio and your video. So if you have any questions, any doubt, please type it in the Zoom group chat. I'll try to address all of them. So guys, can I know from you, like, what is wealth management for you? Any idea you have, or any definition you already know, or you have worked in wealth management? Like, what is wealth management for you? I'd just like to know from you guys. You can type it in the Zoom group chat. Planning for future, saving management for our future requirements. Great. Any more comments I can get? Like anything, it can be, any definition can be whatever you think is right. Managing the funds for present and future. Yes, great, Puro. Yeah. Retirement plan. Yes, that is one of them. Planning for of income versus expenses. Yes, Abhik, absolutely right. To hedge against inflation. Great, Chaitanya, you're right. Great. So I'm just unseen person. Yeah. So I'm going to give my perspective, which what wealth management is for me. So wealth management is assessing and taking care of your financial health, just like you take care of your physical health. You work out, you eat good, you take rest. As you take care of your physical health, in the same fashion you also have to take care of your financial health. And when you take care of your financial health, you eventually move on to part two, which is your wealth accumulation, which you build slowly and slowly, which has a compounding effect over a period of time. So I'm going to touch base on this definition as we move forward. So let's move on to the next slide. Strategic allocation of scarce resources. Yes, Joseph. Great. So today's agenda is part one. So I've divided my webinar in part one and part two, since not everything is able to explain in the one go. So part one is going to be this 5 steps. As I mentioned earlier, guys, please off your videos. I've muted everyone. Okay. What are your goals? Analyze your current income statements and balance sheets, current assessment of your financials, take test of your risk appetite. That this is important for everyone in order to understand what kind of risk you are able to take. Are you a very risk taker or you're very risk averse? And then we primarily will just touch base on the wealth management planning part. And eventually in my next webinar we'll talk about more detail in the, of the short term and the long term investment and how you monitor. So guys, I want to just make it clear that this webinar is a high level overview. This is a very simplistic explanation of what a wealth management for each individual is. The objective of this webinar is to make all the young folks understand that no matter if you are earning 10,000 rupees a month or 10 lakh rupees a month, no matter what, financial, taking care of your financial health is your own responsibility. And I've seen a lot of youngsters, they have their income coming in, but they are not sure about what to do, where to save, where to invest, or they just keep on spending, of not realizing that the more you invest today, the more you're going to have it for future. It's basically time value of money. A lot of CFA folks will get what I'm saying. For non-CFA folks is money saved is money earned and money invested is money multiplied. So 10 rupees today is not 10 rupees tomorrow because of the inflation and other economic drivers that drive the expenses higher. You need to start building your wealth. So let's move on to the next slide. As I explained earlier, all this detailed steps will be explained one at a time through this case study. So this is a fictional person that I've created. Her name is Jaya Mehta. She has done her MBA and also passed CFA level 2. She's 26. She's single, full-time employed as an equity research analyst. Gross salary is 70,000 rupees per month. And she has recently bought a car, which is 9 lakh rupees, and she stays in Pune. And we are expecting her life expectancy of 90 years. So these are some of the inputs and assumptions that I have taken in order to assess her financial health. Again, I will be keeping using this word financial health in order to explain what it means in the coming slides. in the flow process I mentioned earlier, we have everyone has goals. I'm sure a lot of folks over here are in the age group from 21 to 30 or mid, their 30s, and everyone has their goals. You want to save money for maybe vacation, you want to save money for higher education, or you want to buy a house or a car or whatsoever. So whatever your goals are, according to that, you start saving your money and investing in the right assets. So for this case study, I've just taken 3 goals. Jaya wants to build her passive income. She wants to have vacation money, and also she wants to build a retirement fund. So we'll see how she addresses these goals. So before we jump on to analyzing, your financial statements, which is income statement and balance sheet, I just want you to touch base is that everyone over here must be paying their income taxes. In India, we pay our income tax to the income tax department. You have different websites such as ClearTax, or you reach out to chartered accountants who do taxation for you. In the US, you have IRS, and again, you have services such as H&R Block, which help you do your taxes. So I want to take a minute over here and tell you the importance of why you need to be aware of income tax. I understand some of the folks over here are not from finance background, and you might have not even known what goes into the income tax process. But I strongly believe, and I urge everyone to please try to understand when you pay your income tax, what is that goes in the process, which we'll talk about how your income statement is calculated, what happens in the balance sheet, and why it is important for you. Also, at any moment, if you don't understand any terminologies, please have a Google website open in your browser. Please Google any terminology if you don't understand in case. Okay, so this is a typical income statement that I've made. Again, this is not exactly accurate as per the Indian accounting standards. I've tried to make it as simplistic as possible so that everyone understands what I'm trying to say. So let's start analyzing income statement of Jaya. So this is as of today. Jaya's gross salary is 70,000. Her fixed deposit income, let's say she has deposited in some kind of government security, and she's getting an income of, let's say, 250 rupees per month. Total income is 70,250. Her house rent is 22,000. Groceries is like whatever basic requirement she has, month-to-month basis. Life insurance premium is 1,500. Utilities is, let's say, electricity bill, water bill, Netflix, Amazon, whatever subscription she has, have accounted for 2,000 rupees. Miscellaneous 10,000 it includes going out, eating at restaurants, buying Starbucks coffee or whatsoever. So the total operating expense, like every month, this is on an average, her money literally goes out as 45,500. That is the total operating expense for Jaya. After that is taken care of, you deduct it from the total income, it is 24,750. So now this income is what she has, but is that the only money that she can use? No. She has EMI of 14,500 per month. So I have taken she has taken 9 lakh rupees loan for car. So I've assumed for her, let's say 9% interest rate for 7 years. So that comes about 14,500 per month. So earning before tax is 10,250, and tax slab, I just searched, as per the Indian tax department, whatever the slab she has she has 20%. So again, 20% on the EMI plus the operating income, because since the car loan is not deducted from your income tax. So the net income that she has is 2,400 rupees only. So what I'm going to focus is that this 2,400 rupees is the actual money she can invest somewhere or use it. Now, just imagine, guys, 2,400 rupees as compared to 70,000 gross salary, which is absolutely small number. So over here, we can see that she is, uh, having expenses at unnecessary places. Again, it can differ from person to person, but as you curtail your unnecessary expenses at an early age, the more money you have to save and the more money you have to invest. Now, let's move on to the balance sheet. Again, this balance sheet, I've tried to make it as close to the balance sheet of an individual balance sheet that you use it during you do your income tax as per the Indian accounting standards. Again, for the US folks also, some of them are from US. So this is typical, similar to the balance sheet that you have in US, is just that maybe the assets and the liabilities might be on the right or left. So let's try to understand what's happening in the balance sheet. Again, CFA folks, you know that balance sheet is like a snapshot of your financial status as of that moment. Let's start with the assets. Assets, she has a long-term investment, let's say 40,000. She has done a fixed deposit. Maybe her parents told that, you should have some security somewhere. So maybe she did it earlier. She has a car loan. So she, on the asset side, she has a car of 9 lakh and the total long-term asset is of 9,40,000. On the current assets, she has cash on hand of 5,000 rupees. In saving accounts, she has 20,000 rupees and notes owed to you. So basically, maybe she has given some money to her relatives or friends, and that money, those people owe to her. So that's say 15,000 rupees. And no short-term investment. So total current asset is just 40,000. So the total assets is 9,80,000 rupees. Now, coming on to the left side. Before I start with, capital account and all, I'll come that to it later. First, we'll talk about the liabilities. Is that the money she owes to other people or bank or whatsoever? Okay. Now, car loan is 9 lakh. Excuse me. So total long-term liability is 9 lakh rupees. Current liabilities is, let's say she still has some bills to be paid, which is 3,000 rupees. And credit card bill, guys, just look at it. 37,000 rupees is a big number. For any mid 20 years folks, monthly, credit card bill 37,000 is too big. I'm assuming that she has her expenses going on the higher side. So that's a big number. And the total liability is 9,40,000. That is 9 lakh long term and current is 40,000. Now, CFA folks, you know that liability plus equity is equal to assets. Try to understand, I've tried to calculate the equity directly by deducting the liability from the asset, which is only 40,000 rupees. So guys, what I'm trying to make a point over here is, let's say as of today, some XYZ, catastrophe happens in Jaya's life and she has to liquidate all her assets. Okay. She needs the money or she has to help out her parents or whatsoever has happened in her life. Okay. Only 40,000 rupees is what she's going to get from whatever, wealth she has accumulated in the last couple of years since she graduated or done her MBA. So try to understand, look at where the number is 9,80,000 and look where her net worth is 40,000 rupees. So we'll talk about ratios in the next slide. But what I'm trying to make a point is the liabilities are very high. She has taken a loan, but on the investment side, it is so less. So I'm going to take a minute over here and ask every one of you, if you guys have any questions, any doubt, in case if you have not understand any slide, please type it in the Zoom group chat. Before I move on to the ratio slide. Guys, can you hear me? Where our main focus should be. Great. Yeah. Well, saving and earning, sure. So I'm assuming that you guys have no questions. I'm going to move on to the next slide, which is the most important slide of this webinar. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes over here to explain what are these ratios and why this is the most important slide of today's webinar. So these are the 5 ratios that I have taken and which I feel are very important. Again, there are many ratios to assess your financial health by analyzing income statement and balance sheet. But I want to focus on these 5 which are very much applicable and most important. And everyone, sitting at home, you can calculate it, and because I'm going to share the formulas as well. So let's start with the first one, emergency fund ratio. So what is emergency fund ratio? As the name suggests, it is a fund that is designed for any emergency that can be, unforeseen or unprecedented in the near future. So what's happening today? Today, because of coronavirus, there is a recession, there is a global recession. Okay, what's happening over here? Just give me a second, guys. Okay. So due to coronavirus, as I mentioned, there is a global recession in the world, and a lot of people are having, problem with managing their expenses. So why is this happening? I'm pretty sure everyone was earning even before, this pandemic started in February, March, globally, and everyone is still surviving to meet their basic needs, met. Like, why? They should have, if they would have invested at the right time, at the right place, and taken care of this emergency fund, they would have been much, much better off today. So emergency fund is total current assets divided by non-discretionary expense. So what is non-discretionary expenses? The amount that is absolutely going to go every month. That can be anything: your groceries, your EMIs, your basic day-to-day needs that you have, which needs to be taken care of. So for that, you need to have at least a 6 months of buffer. So in Jaya's case, let's say the total amount is, as we calculate, we can calculate from the income statement, is 60,000 rupees. But the total current assets, it's only 40,000. So the point I'm trying to make over here is, Jaya needs to have total current assets close to 1,20,000, which automatically becomes 6. 1,20,000 divided by 60,000 is equal to 6, which takes care of a non-discretionary expense for 6 months. Now, I cannot emphasize any more on this ratio, but the importance of this emergency fund ratio is absolutely phenomenal, because today is coronavirus, tomorrow it can be anything. In anyone's personal life, any problem or any issues, they don't warn you before they come. Okay, and it can be anything. Maybe you have met with an accident, or something has happened in your family and you need that money to survive. Maybe you can't go to work. So in that situation, what do? You need to have a buffer, which is this. And I strongly believe that before you even think of investing, oh, I want to invest in a stock, this is a hot stock, this is that fund, blah, blah, blah. Before you do that, guys, you need to see that you take care of all these ratios. Is this right? Is this taken care of? Because this is the foundation of your financial health. Just to give you an example, if you have seen a construction site, on a construction site, you see the foundation is given a lot of importance, and it is designed in order to take care of the entire superstructure. Let's say the building is 20 floors or 30 floors or whatsoever. In order to take care of that entire superstructure, all those floors, the foundation needs to be absolutely solid. In the same fashion, this is the foundation of your wealth management, taking care of all these ratios. So let's go ahead again. This is less than 6. Current ratio. Now we'll talk about the current ratio, which is taking care of your liquidity. As we saw in the balance sheet, her liabilities are 40,000 and her current asset is 40,000. So she's just on the borderline. What I mean by this is that if she doesn't take care of a credit card, again, those a lot of folks, I'm pretty sure over here, you use your credit card and you have something called as interest rate or APR for the US folks, which charges in case you delayed your payment every month. You don't settle it. So why not to have a current asset, that is your liquid assets, more than what you have your current liabilities? Again, the benchmark is 1 to 2. These are the standard benchmarks, but you can have more than 2 as well. Again, it differs for person to person. Again, this is not right, so we'll see how we can improve that. Saving percentage. Now, saving percentage over here, okay, my bad. The amount is actually 2,000 over here. It's 8,000, so it is less. 12%, which is less than 15%. So over here, we try to make a point that, how the saving percentage can be more than 15%. Again, it differs from person to person. The saving percentage is the amount that you put it in your different kind of investments. Investment ratio is the investment income upon average investments. So let's say you have investments in any other securities, like you have real estate, you get some rent from there. You have some amount in fixed deposit, you get some interest from there. So what is that investment? Now that investment interest should be from 8 to 12%. This is what is much more applicable for people in their mid-20s. Again, this can change. Maybe as you grow older, your investment can be more to safeguard, but in your early age, it needs to be, on the aggressive side in order to build more wealth. Since you have much more risk-taking appetite. So we'll see that how she can invest in other securities where she has a benchmark from 8 to 12%. Now solvency percentage, the last ratio. Over here, her net worth divided by total asset, which is less than 5%. Guys, again, as I emphasized earlier, her net worth needs to be at least 50% of her total assets. This can be achieved, by investing at the right places. The point I'm trying to make over here is, if her financial health is not taken care of well, then how will she will have money in the latter stage of her life? Let's say she gets married in few years, she starts a family, she has kids and all. Note that those expenses are going to increase. So in order to take care of those increased expenses in the future, you might as well first take care of your current expenses and see how these ratios you can try to bring within the benchmark. So is everyone with me so far? Can you please type it in the Zoom group chat? Yes, no, if you have not understood anything so far. Great. Guys, this is the most important slide of the presentation. Great. So you have understood so far. Okay. It's very simple. There are ratios. I've clearly, given the formulas, and we see how we can go about it. Okay. Okay. So now this is the situation 2 years later. Okay. Now, 2 years later, as we can see, what changes has she made in her expenses? Okay. since she wanted to take care of all her ratios, we'll see how can she achieve that by making changes in her income statement and balance sheet. So this is 2 years later now. All right. So as we can see, her house rent is 15,000. She has reduced it from 22,000. So maybe she has moved from a 1 BHK apartment for herself to a 2-bedroom apartment with some of maybe with her friend or her cousin. So this decreases her expenses drastically. On grocery, let's say instead of going to a high-end retailer, wholesale retailer, maybe she's going to much more of a general retailer. Like instead of going to Dorabji or Godrej Nature's Basket, Pune folks, you might understand. Shouldn't the FD be included in the net worth? Just a thought. No, no. There's the fixed deposit earlier on the balance sheet. It is on the asset side. So that's an investment. That's an asset, Darsh. Okay, coming back to our income statement. Instead of buying an apple which is let's say 40-50 rupees a kg or 70 rupees a kg, maybe she's buying it now at 40 rupees a kg. So small changes, all right, the small changes can accumulate and save you a lot of money. Same with the in the fashion, you can see in the utilities. Maybe she has stopped using some of the subscription. Maybe she's using the subscription with her friends. Utilities might have decreases since she has moved in a 2-bedroom apartment. So those get divided. So she has reduced her money over there. Again, now she has started using the car. So obviously we have to include those 4,000 rupees per month. Maybe this can be some amount of insurance, some amount of maintenance. So I've just tried to make it per month as 4,000 rupees. Miscellaneous, again, from 10,000 rupees, guys, it is at 6,000 rupees. Now, she can, make a great difference of here. Instead of, drinking coffee at Starbucks, maybe 3-4 times a week, she can make coffee at her home, or maybe go for some cheaper option. And all this makes a huge difference. Just look at the net income. It is 10,000 rupees, 10,983, which is almost 11,000 rupees. Again, the EMI stays the same. The tax slab is obviously 20%. So from 2,000 to 10,000, it's a great jump. Okay. And the more the money she has, the more she can invest it. All right. Now let's see what is the change in the balance sheet. Now look at this balance sheet. Let's say we gave her like 4-5 months to make all these changes, move to a new apartment and, curtail her expenses and all. And then she started investing her money. Just look at the difference of the balance sheet within 2 years, guys. Within 2 years. We'll start with the assets. Let's say she started investing in a mutual fund. Okay. She maybe studied some of the funds and she found that she got one which is the right one for her. And every month, maybe she invested some amount which accumulated to 50,000. Same she did it for some debt securities, a debt mutual fund. She put it 60,000 rupees over there. Now look at this investments liquid funds on the right corner side. 1,05,000, big number. So what is that 1,05,000? So that is the money that she can use in case of emergency fund ratio. So that is the one that actually increases her total current assets, which we will be talking soon with why it makes a huge difference. Now, just look on the left side, on the highlighted side. Current bills she owes is 0. She has reduced her credit card bill. She still has 15,000, but she can take care of that. So as you can see, there is a massive difference by just making small changes every month. So you can see the importance of this, guys. If you are disciplined, you can make a huge difference in your own financial health. And that is also not 10 years or 15 years, just 2 years. Okay. Her total current liability is at only 15,000, whereas her because of her the liquid fund investment, her total current assets is 1,30,000. Now look at the net worth. The net worth has gone to 4,83,000. How did this happen? It happened because she increased, it's simple, she increased her assets and tried to reduce her liabilities. Guys, no matter if you've just been working for a couple of years or you've been, working for 10 years and now you're a manager of, some XYZ department in some XYZ company, this is absolutely applicable in each and everyone's life. And this is very simple. All you have to do, if you don't have your own income statement, balance sheet, individual, you can reach out to a chartered accountant and he can help you make this. Now let's move on to the ratios and see what difference has it made over there. Emergency fund ratio. Guys, look at it, 2.58, a great improvement. Though she is not at 6, but slowly and steadily she's reaching over there. So she is building her corpus. Maybe she might have done it sooner instead of investing over here in the investment of a mutual fund or debt. She can, but again, it differs from person to person. So in this case, slowly she is building up, and at 2.58 is great improvement. Current ratios, what I mentioned earlier. Literally from 1, she has gone to 8.67. And how did this happen? It's simple. She took care of her credit card bills, has no bills on. So current liability has gone to literally 15,000. Whereas her total current assets is gone to 130. Great shift. Savings percentage. Again, because her curtailing her expenses, now she has more money every month. Okay, try to understand, every month she has approximately 11,000. Okay, multiplied by 24 months. That's a big number which you can invest smartly and have taken care of your financial health. Now, investment ratio. Why is it 9%? Okay, now let me take you back to the balance sheet. So what I've assumed is, I've assumed, let's say maybe 9.5 or so percentage for mutual fund, which is just 50,000 at the top. For debt, maybe 7 to 8%. And at the bottom, at the right bottom, for investment liquid funds, I'm assuming that funds maybe generates around 6 to 7%. So when I take an average, the average goes to 9%. And it's a great achievement for Jaya. She has come into those benchmark of 8 to 12%. And the more smartly she keeps on investing, steadily, slowly. Again, I will emphasize this word, not rapidly, not just being very haphazard in investment, but analyzing her own income statement, balance sheet, analyzing her own self. She's investing smartly and slowly building up. We'll come to her risk appetite in the coming slides, but just to make a point, I'm emphasizing on this more. Solvency percentage. Just look at this, guys. Net worth to total assets gone to 43%, which is very close to 50%. Now, how did this happen? It is very simple. Like I mentioned earlier, she reduced her expenses, liabilities, and because she increased her assets, within 2 years, guys, from 40,000, Jaya has gone to a net worth of 4,83,000. A great, great improvement. So, as I mentioned earlier, if she had to liquidate all her assets today, she at least has 4,83,000 as compared to only 40,000 earlier. Can't hear. Arpita, okay. Can you hear me, guys? I'm taking a moment over here. Can you hear me, guys? Please say yes. Okay, Arpita, maybe something is wrong on your end. Please check your laptop or phone or maybe the internet connection. Okay, great, perfect. Now, okay, fine, perfect. So the point I'm trying to make, guys, is today, if anything happens, she's prepared for tomorrow's, unforeseen events. Again, let's say some XYZ things happen. Again, the reason why I'm keeping on going to, prepare her for all this situation is because I like to be prepared for the worst situation. Everyone is like, happy go lucky when the economy is going great. Everyone is just like, spending and all. But when this keeps on going, no one had ever imagined in their life that in February, March, there will be a pandemic and everything will come to standstill. No one had imagined. So it is better to take precaution, than to, have your cure and, waste more money over there. So that is the reason why I'm keeping on emphasizing on these words of, having prepared for the worst situations. Okay. So now I've finished with the assessment of our financials. I want to take a minute over here again. If you guys have not understood anything, whatever I've said so far, or like, not understood a certain slide or not getting some certain concepts, please type your doubts in the Zoom group chat. I will take a couple of minutes over here. If you have any doubts, guys, any question so far. Okay, great. I'm assuming no one has any questions. So I've tried to, again, like I mentioned earlier, I've tried to make this very simple, as clear as possible in order for everyone understands. Please explain emergency fund ratio again. Okay. Emergency fund ratio, 1, 2, 3, 4, if you can please log out and log in again with your proper name, that will be great. That will be very helpful for, everyone. Again, I'll quickly explain the emergency fund ratio. It is a fund. Basically, you have designed it for emergency. So emergency can be anything, guys. Tomorrow, instead of there is a pandemic, there can be anything else. There can be a financial recession. There can be any kind of like, unforeseeable event where you are laid off, where you don't have a job. Okay. So in that period, what happens? Your expenses are not going to stop. Like, for example, if you're living on rent, so you have to give rent every month. Okay. If you are like, you need food to eat, so the grocery money is going to go out. If you have some EMIs, you have bought a house loan, or you've taken a car loan, the EMI is going to go out. So all those expenses which are non-discretionary expenses are definitely going to go out of your bank account. Okay. So in order to take care of those in unforeseeable events, or in the worst situations where you can't make money, for that reason you design emergency fund. Am I clear? Does anyone has any doubt with emergency fund? Okay, thank you. Great. Okay, perfect. Let's move ahead. All right. Now moving on to the step 4. So this is where you take the assessment of your risk appetite. So now once you have taken care of your financial health, now you're well off. Like I said, when you look at a construction building, the foundation, which lies on the hard strata, is absolutely strong. Then you start slowly building on the first floor, second floor, go on until to the top floor, which can be anything, 30, 40, 100, whatever. This is what the first floor looks like. Okay. Over here, you understand your risk appetite, what kind of person you are. See, everyone knows, like, their personality and all, but it is important to take an assessment. I've given a link over here. There are many tests out there. This is Motley Fool. These people are based in Virginia in US. I've been following those guys for a couple of years, and they have great, they have great assessment tests which you can use, and you can assess what kind of person you are. Are you a very risk-taking person, or are you very risk-averse, or a neutral? So when I took the assessment of Jaya, okay, her result came as moderately aggressive. Now, once you know that you're moderately aggressive, okay, but what do you do with that? Okay, now you know you're maybe a very high risk taker, or you're very risk averse, but what do you do with that? You basically see on a pyramid, or it can be any kind of like, a scale. Where do you lie with respect to the risk? Okay. So it can be high risk to low risk. And with those level of risk, there are different securities. So as you see in the red, there are futures, options, cryptocurrencies. I'm pretty sure everyone knows about this Bitcoin. I'm pretty sure you have heard about it. So those are on the very, high risk end. In the middle, there are like, real estate, equity mutual funds, small cap, large cap stocks. There are high income bonds. Again, there are some kind of debt investments as well. For the people who are very risk averse, they can go for government securities. So you, like I said, FDs. You can have the FDs of the bank, or you can buy government bonds, or you can have any investment in treasury notes or whatsoever. Again, there is also something called as cash, which for people, they don't want only risk in their life. So people who don't want risk in their life, guys, your money is not going to grow no matter what. And those lies at the bottom, which is cash. So yeah, you can have today, a lakh rupees cash, or 10 lakh rupees cash, or 1 CR cash. But if that cash is not invested anywhere, how is going to make return? So the moment, no matter what kind of investment you make, you put it in the government bond, real estate, or cryptocurrencies, according to those, the risk you take, the higher return you get. So we are not going to go into much detail over that, because that's into the part 2. This is again a very high level stuff, guys. I'm just giving you a simplistic overview of what you can actually use this tool in your own financial health. Okay. Now let's move on to the passive income. Over here, you can see that she wants to take care of her passive income. Now, before I say passive income and start explaining that, I want to know what is passive income for you guys. If you can just put it in the Zoom group chat. So when I say passive income, what comes to your mind? Like, you don't have to read what is on the slide. I mean, I will obviously explain, but again, this is what is for Jaya, but what is passive income for you? For every individual, it is different. For a person who is, again, like I said, 22 years old, passive income is different for that person. A person who is 30 years old, a passive income definition is different for that person. Gold, great, Arpita, sure, okay. Earning without working, great. Income excluding the primary sources of income, great. Okay, the income you generate while you sleep, perfect, Chinmay, okay. 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 So passive income is basically an income that is coming from investments that you have made, in different assets. So this is income other than what you're earning at your job or in your business. That is what is called as passive income. Now, yeah, return on investment. Sure, Pratik. Yeah. So passive income can be, in different ranges. So let's say your expenses are 50,000 per month, but you just need passive income of, let's say, 25,000 rupees, because you just want to take care of the half the expenses. So passive income differs from person to person. Someone might say, I just want passive income of 1 lakh rupees. That's it. I don't want to work in my life anymore. And I'm going to make investments in XYZ securities. And that's it. So this is what passive income differs. So in Jaya's case, she just wants to take care of her EMIs. Okay. So EMI is 14,500. So for 14,500 per month multiplied by 12 is, the total amount that she needs for the year, and divided by 10%. So guys, 17 lakh 40,000, which is a huge number. And I'm not saying that Jaya is going to achieve this number in like, a year, a couple of years, not necessarily. She can slowly and steadily build up this corpus, and in an investment or in a fund where she earns 10%. Okay. Now, again, 10% can differ. Okay. It can be 8%, 9% as well. But this is for just explanation purpose. So for passive income, what are the different kind of securities that people look at? Okay. So I've given few examples. There is real estate, public and private. Over here it is, I've given a public real estate investment trust. There is again a FD. Again, FD is on the lower side. It's definitely not 10%. then you have something called as non-convertible debentures. In case you guys, you don't get this terminologies, you can Google it. I'm trying to be as slow as possible. There are mutual funds of high paying dividend of mature companies. So these are like different securities. Again, let me go one slide earlier. Okay, just a minute. Again, you see, so try to understand when I'm saying she needs to take care of her passive income, she's trying to be in her own range of risk, which is this real estate, mutual funds, blah, 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 other investments. Okay. So this is what makes Jaya comfortable. The reason why I'm taking you back one slide is because try to understand, first you assess your own self. And once you know, okay, fine, you know, this is my risk appetite. I'm comfortable investing money over here. Once you're comfortable with it, you have done your homework, you can definitely put your money over there. So this is one way where she can take care of her passive income. Now let's move on to our second goal. Now vacation money. Again, I've just assumed that, let's say Jaya, 6,000 I've actually included the other investment that she gets, the income that she gets over the period of a few years. So 10,000 initially plus 6,000. So let's say 16,640 is what she gets per month. Out of that 5,000 for 12 months, she invests, she can have 60,000 per year. Now try to understand, you don't have to keep this 5,000 rupees aside. Okay, you can put it in a liquid fund and maybe it can generate some amount, maybe 6-7%. The point I'm trying to make is always put your money, instead of, you know, just lying in your bank account. Like when Jaya had her money in her saving accounts, it's like saving accounts barely makes any percentage, or maybe she has current account. Okay, the money over there doesn't make money for you when you sleep. Like what Chaitanya mentioned, you know, you need, your money needs to be earning, compounding slowly and steadily. Again, I emphasize the word slowly and steadily, not haphazardly, not, you know, becoming rich in one night, but slowly and steadily you will eventually reach there. So let's say liquid fund is kind of an investment where you can actually redeem your money quickly without, you know, waiting for very long. So that money she can put it aside and have every year. Now note this, that I am doing this only for, you know, as of today for Jaya. That is after 2 years. Okay, the time frame is as of after 2 years. She's 28 and this is what she's making. But this will not remain constant. This will eventually increase. Her salary will increase. Maybe she gets married, her partner's income will also be added over here. She have more money. So now vacation money I have explained. Let's go to our last goal, which is retirement fund. Now, non-CFA folks, just hang in there for a minute. I will go through this slide and I'll go to another slide after this. Well, I've explained retirement fund on a time scale, which maybe you'll understand much more over there better. So I'll just go one line item at a time. Wage replacement ratio. So let's say our current salary is 8,40,000. And at the age of, let's say 70, she's going to get retired. Maybe she's very ambitious and all, you know, she wants to work as, you know, in a later life as possible. So 80% of that, it goes to 6,70,000 rupees. Okay. And we are expecting, again, I mentioned in the initial slide, she's going to live up to 90 years. All right. So what we do is we discount that 6,70,000 multiplied by 20 years. Again, I've added some kind of inflation over there, because remember, 10 rupees today is not 10 rupees tomorrow. The inflation over there eats up. I think our India's inflation is what, 4 to 5%, something like that. So in that situation, I've factored that in. And at the age of 70, when she retires, she needs a total corpus approximately of 15 CR. Okay. And I'm assuming that she starts a retirement fund at 30. Okay. So I'm giving her 2 years more. Please note that Jaya is today at 28 years of old. Okay. Now her total investment years is 41, including because she starts her investment at the beginning of the year, not at the end of the year. Assuming inflation for 4%, real return of 8%, investment I'm assuming of 12%, a combination of both of this. So per month, she has to put aside of 11,000, okay, just 11,150.94 rupees. Okay. Now here's the slide for folks which might have not understand the previous slide. See, from 90 to 70, 6,70,000 she'll need every year. So multiplied by that 20 plus I've added some inflation in that. So completely I discounted that at 70. The total amount that she will need is, let's say, 15 CR approximately. Okay, the corpus. So to reach that 15 CR, okay, to reach that 15 CR, she has a time limit of what? 41 years. Okay, because I'm assuming she starts a retirement fund at the age of 30. So for that, she needs to again do her homework, maybe consult a wealth manager or any reputed firm where she can find a good, make a portfolio or a fund where she can get 12%. And every month she has to put in 11,150. So by the age of 30, like I said, her income will increase. So she'll have more money to put it over there. Now, will this be, 11,150 permanently, or the corpus will be 15 CR until she's like 70? No. In this 41 years of age, guys, anything can happen. You have to keep on updating this. Okay, you have to keep on analyzing this. Twice a year. That's more than sufficient. You have to take care of this because this is something that you're building for a very long period of time. Okay. Now 12% is for Jaya. Maybe she's very aggressive for retirement, but for other people it can be 8%, 9%. It changes, guys. But what I'm trying to explain you from this slide is an example of how a retirement fund can be formed as early as possible with the lower amount of money. Because instead of 41, let's say someone is today 25 years of age, that person has 5 years of advantage. Maybe that amount will go less. So the point I'm trying to make is, the earlier you start, the less money you require to achieve your goal. Okay. So let's move on to the next slide, which is the conclusion. So before I, start reading the conclusion and try to do the entire summary of the presentation, I want to go back again and just tell me that, any goal you have not understood, or the explanation or something like that, which you have concept that you have not, got hold of, please let me know. Right from risk appetite to all the 3 goals that she has, tried to achieve. Anywhere over here you have not understood anything, please type it in the Zoom group chat. Anything, guys, you have, will you share this PPT? Yes, Arpita, I will correct some stuff more. I think I have couple of numbers. I'll just correct it and then I'll send the PPT. I've recorded this entire webinar and I will be uploading it on the YouTube. Guys, also the objective, as I said, is financial health, analyzing that and how you can achieve, your goals. This is just like the part 1. So I'm not going in detail about which investment is right for you or which investment is not, because there are n number of securities out there where you can invest. But that is not the objective of this part 1 webinar today. So again, just trying to give you a high level view from this webinar. So I'm assuming you guys don't have any questions. So in conclusion, please do your financial analysis of your income statement and balance sheet. So CFA folks, I'm pretty sure you guys are super comfortable because you have seen this like so many times. For non-CFA folks or from non-finance people, income statement balance sheet is nothing that you have to be scared of. It is very simple. you have to sit with your chartered accountant. If you already have it and you need help understanding it, I'm more than happy to help you out. Is all you have to take is numbers from there and put it in the ratios, the 5 ratios that I shared earlier. Okay. After you do that, you take your risk appetite test, like, understand what kind of person you are. Are you a person where you don't care, like, okay, you are earning 1 lakh rupees a month and you don't care, like, let's say 15,000 rupees you invest anywhere and if it is zero. Are you that kind of risky person, or you just want to, like, preserve your wealth? You need to analyze that. Before investing, I would definitely suggest, consult a wealth manager. If you are into this field of investment industry or already managing, people's money, then I'm pretty sure you guys are well off already. But for people who are not, you can definitely reach out to, reputed wealth managers. I'm pretty sure there are many in Pune, or people who are in Mumbai. You can, reach out to those people. Again, if you don't want to manage actively your portfolio, please hire a professional. The most important thing is, guys, if you don't want to, get personally, involved and do everything by yourself, you can definitely hire a professional. But it is your responsibility at least to know what is happening with your financial health. Just like, as I mentioned earlier, and I'm repeating it again, you take care of your physical health. Okay. Do your homework before doing anything. Even hiring a wealth manager or investing, any kind of step you take in this, please do your homework. No matter what amount of, service you're provided, you have to do your own homework. Invest to grow. This is one motto that I follow. No matter what investment it is investment in your money, your relationship, your education, your career. Always remember, the more you invest, the time you invest in it, eventually that aspect is going to grow. Uh, this motto is what my father lives by, and I've, trying my best to implement it in my life. I'm pretty sure I'll be successful with this. Is that 10% learning and 90% implementation is equal to 100% result. Guys, whatever you learn, if you don't have a practical implementation of it, it's not useful at all. No matter what you learned in your undergrad, in your MBA, or whatever you learn your masters, if you're applying it in your real life, okay, that is where you test it. Is it working or not? I'm pretty sure a lot of people read in newspaper, and always you have this website popping up of, like, different opportunities of investment and all. But you have to take that first step. You have to implement it. You have to test it in order to get those results. Again, lastly, this pandemic is an opportunity to all. Opportunity in a disguise, I would say, is that you have time. Implement your CFA skill for CFA folks. For your own good, you're learning. You have learned a lot in level 1. Please apply it in your real life as well. You can benefit a lot. I always share a lot in our WhatsApp group as well. For non-CFA folks, in case if you're not working right now, please use this time to up your skills. There are many resources available out there. I will share some in the next slide. Again, stay home, stay safe. I'm sure, I hope everyone is doing well, and I'm sure everyone is taking care in this difficult situation. Again, my investment Bible for me is Investopedia. When I started my MBA, this is a heavy this website I relied on heavily, and I subscribed to it. I definitely encourage everyone to subscribe to this website. It has amazing information. It is like a Bible for me because it has definition of almost everything, and it's as simplistic as possible. There's NJ Financial Tools on iOS and Android. Again, this is very useful for calculator. Whatever I did earlier in retirement fund, you can just plug in the numbers over here and you can get it. Again, there are other tools also, apps of out there, but I have used this app, and I hope you guys find it useful. Value Research Online is another website, great for equity investment, stocks and all. This is a person, CA Rachna Fadke Ranade. I recently came across her profile. on YouTube, and she has done a great job of explaining it to non-finance folks, or people who are not related to investment or finance industry or whatsoever. So you can subscribe to her. I find it useful. Maybe you can find it as well. Again, I'm not promoting anyone over here. You're free to follow anyone or whomsoever you think is right for you. For Indian folks, Clear Tax website, I think it's a great one. I really like it. I'm going to start doing my taxes from this website. I recently came across this. They have information on all the procedures of taxations and laws and bylaws, and they have explained it in infographic way. Again, they have information on different securities as well. But again, this is specially designed for taxes. And again, if you don't want to pay a lot of money to your CA, or not get it done by any consultancy, please do check it out. I hope you find it useful. And that's it. Thank you, everyone. I think it's been 1 hour and 10 minutes. I hope you all enjoyed this session. If you still have any questions, you can please put it in the Zoom group chat. I will be uploading this webinar on YouTube. Again, I have the PPT, so I'll share on our WhatsApp groups. I'm pretty sure everyone over here has, reach out to me on WhatsApp or on different social platform. Thank you, Ruchi. Thank you so much. Thank you, Arpita. Thank you, Clary. Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you, Ronnie. Is what ratio we should buy loan considering our income? So Mohit, thank you, Rutuja. So Mohit, try to understand that the ratio I have not calculated of that, you're eligible for loan or not, because I mean, that is one of the important ratio, but that ratio is calculated from the bank perspective. Okay. This all ratios. Okay. Let me just take you to the ratio slide real quick. Okay. See, this all ratios, Mohit, are designed to take care of your own financial health first, seeing how well you're doing. Because if you're doing well, trust me, the ratio of DSCR, I know you're talking about debt service coverage ratio, which the bank looks, it will be automatically taken care of. Try to understand that. So that is the reason why I didn't mention that ratio of are you eligible to get a loan or not over here. Okay. Thank you, Pooja. Thank you, Darsh. Thank you, Abhik. Thank you, Chinmay. Thank you, Pratik. Yes, I'm trying, exactly, Pratik. I've kept it very simple, very basic, so that everyone understands this. I don't want, again, wealth management is a complex subject. Please try to understand. Thank you, Himanshu. Yes, I will be coming with another webinar very soon. I've kept it as simple as possible so that you guys can first start implementing this in your life, because I really, feel that every individual out there should, be responsible for their own financial health. And I'm sure everyone wants to, again, I wouldn't say become rich, but I would say financially well off. That is, I think, the right term, is because if you are well off financially, you are psychologically very, stress free in your own life. Okay, that is what my take is. That is what I have seen when I talk to a lot of my cousins, my friends, a lot of you CFA folks, a couple of friends from US. This is what I get is, and that is the reason what has driven me to do this webinar, is to make all, especially I'm emphasizing on the young folks, to be responsible and take care of your own financial health. Very well. Okay. Thank you, Pooja. Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Again, take care. Be safe. And I hope we all will be out of this pandemic and this recession, and take care of your financial on your own and be successful in life. So thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye. I'm going to end the meeting. Thanks.